So this is about my multiple near-death experiences and UFO experiences, being an ET contactee, and more. All right. So you already know about me, the Southern Belle Medium, as well as I'm a celestial from Sirius B, and a Galactic Federation Ambassador Light, UFO experiencer, abductee, contactee, 6-time near-death experience, Christ, angelic realm, and ultra-dimensional channeler. I've been channeling Christ since 3.5, around there, a long time. Astral, quantum, and time jumper. Okay, so let me go over it quickly. Yes, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. I'm going to cover all of this. So I'm going into my near-death experiences. Some of you don't know about it. And there's states that I've achieved in different ones. Then I'm going to go over my after effects of that, which is psychic knowing, clairs, evidential and advanced types of mediumship, trance and conscious channeling, past and between life recall, many on other planets, as well as visiting on the Galactic Federation more than once. Channeling Commander Aster, I didn't even know it existed 4 years ago, but that was a part of my consciousness that was shut down. My halos that had been on film, I used to think they were glitches, glowing angelic regressions to realizing I'm a hybrid, and knowing many light languages by thought, written and spoken. So, and then we're going to talk about my latest thing, gulp, is Tamara Calder, the DC Marvel superpowers. I wish I could make this up. Hero. All right, so let's begin. That's me as a I don't know, a toddler. So I'm going to go over there's a prenatal. My 6-year experiences are prenatal, 3, a little over 3 years old, 4, 5, 10, and 38. I don't know why my PowerPoint's looking kind of funky here. But anyway, I'm going to keep going. My NDEs open different layers of awareness and abilities to confront the spectrum and the duality of life and work between realms. That's just one of the things it did. It allowed me to quantum and time travel at will, speak to spirit people and to channel masters as well, and recall life on other planets, and to connect with my star family, the Syrians, along with other star races and the angelics and source. All right. So here's the first one, and I don't know why my PowerPoint is actually flawless. My PowerPoint and everything looks scooted over, so I don't know why that is. All right, so bear with me on that, because I'm a Syrian type A, so I don't know why this is a little bit funky, but but let's go with it. All right, so that's my mother, and she's pregnant with my father, who was Cherokee. I don't know if you can tell, he's dark skinned. His parents behind him, you can see below, it's my grandparents and my mom. She's pregnant. It's a shotgun wedding. They didn't look too happy. At the time, it's a thing. It's called prenatal. I ran it in regression. It was pretty traumatic. And I saw that she did not want the child. She was terrified. It was the times, she felt shame and so forth. And I saw the whole conversation as a spirit in the bathroom and felt so much love for her. And I was only concerned about my mother, her feeling. I tried to merge with her essence to heal her. I just wanted to wrap her in my love. But let's just put it this way. I don't want to say too much. My mother's living, but there was injury to the head area. Put it that way. But I'm fine. Okay. But, I felt really sorry for her at the time. All right. So the next one was another puncture to the head. So, that is a quick way to be connected to your crown chakra up. I was playing hide and seek in an antebellum house, much like this, with my cousin. And I was jumping up and down. She was counting, and there was a nail under the dresser. Why? I don't know. It was a nice house, but the blunt end went through my skull. I thought a cup was dripped down my head, but it was blood. And I fell back and was unresponsive. I saw my body above. There wasn't any pain when I was outside of my body, because I was in spirit form, and I could hear adults as I was speaking, and I could follow everything they were saying. I saw these beings of lights come into the room. They were lining up for me. And I was spirit, and I was seeing all directions at once, including outside, inside, various rooms. I could see what's going out, thought everywhere, which we can actually do that, as long as you know that now. I do that. I had a doctor once with my eyes saying, you know, the reason you have a stigma, I don't have it now, is because you try to always look behind you. But now I know I don't need my eyes for that. Afterwards, I saw and talked to spirits regularly. It's just something that happened. And yes, as a child, people asked me, it was frightening. I didn't understand it. And I had no one to talk to about that. So it heightened my connection to God, Christ, and the angels, because not all of them were good that were coming through my room every night. You know, a lot of them just needed help. And then there was also darker things I saw because we were close to the Archon realm. Surprise. Then I saw this guardian angel. It was a 12-foot angel that was over my head kneeling, and it was as though with healing. There was light coming out of it, appeared to be hands, but then they were all light. And this angel, I knew it was an angel. How? I just knew. And I didn't have a lot of religion because I was so young, you know, so I didn't know about things like that. But it was bright white and had an orange feel to it. I felt nothing but love from this very powerful being of light. And I was told that in spirit that my name is Uriel. I didn't know later on that that was an archangel, and that meant the fire of God. So I heard a voice that said, it's not your time. I have much to do and to go back. Now, I've been studied on my NDEs by a couple of universities, maybe 3, one in England. And this is not your time. You have much to do is pretty common thing that this said. So I always get in my mind, you know, does God push a button? And that's what happens, you know, it's like a recording. But I was immediately back in my body when I heard those words. And it wasn't just a voice. It was permeated my soul. It's like it was the voice of God. Like I knew it. No argument. It was just, it was like nothing before. So I'm back in the body, confused. I had a concussion, and I had this small hole in my head for 2 years till it grew back because it was, you know, soft tissue and bone. So definitely I saw and heard from spirit people, and I could have full conversations. I really didn't try, but that's what happened. Then at age 4, that's me and my mom. Look how sassy I am. Okay. So this is outside of my grandparents' home with my mom. Now, this guy in the middle became my stepfather. If you look at the car, the Pontiac, and look at the gold Pontiac, that's his house and his mother and his dog, Raybo. I think my mom's there too, but that's this car that we had the accident in. And the day that he came to pick her up for a date, she had the first guy, shotgun wedding, didn't last, I don't know, a couple months, if that. And they were just too young. And so now my mom's a little bit older. She wants to be married. She's looking for a baby daddy. She wants me to meet him. It's a really bad day. It's snowing, icy. It's in Hickory, North Carolina, where I was born. It's the foothill of the mountains, about 2 hours from Asheville, where they had all that, the storm and all that. Anyway, we went to go eat at Pizza Hut and to eat ice cream afterwards. My grandmother did not want us to go that day because it was very bad. Nobody was really out. So we went to this place. My father, he was in broadcast for years, and this was one of his first companies he worked with. He was an editorial announcer and a DJ, and it was Channel 1. He eventually went to Raleigh and worked with like Wolfman Jack and a lot of famous people. But anyway, I am there. That's him at his office. He said, pick out some albums, and your mother and I have to talk. Well, at the time they were dating, so they weren't married yet, but we're going to talk. So I said, okay, free albums. Got a lot of Motown. I really was obsessed with the Monkees. I really loved music early on, just coming right out of the hatch. I loved it. And so after we left Channel 1, it was about an hour and a half. They were arguing, and basically she wanted to get married. He wanted to wait and have more money. They got in this horrible argument. We got in the car. We drove off. He slammed the brakes. It turned the car around. We impacted into a large tree. My head and face went through the windshield. I had my nose as an adult. I had 2 operations to remove cartilage from my face, which is a miracle that I look decent and that I am fine, you know, intellectually and all that as well. And so the impact forced me out of the body. It was just quick, and I saw blackness. And then I felt very wet and cold, and I was confused because I couldn't find my body. But I did perceive this thing that I saw as a tunnel forming, or a portal. This tunnel at the end had a light at the end, and I saw Jesus. And behind him were spirit people, which I just knew that they were my ancestors. I wasn't sure who, but I just knew it. And they were with him. And the year before, I was playing with, I thought it was a ball, but it was an egg. And I killed a bird. And I was just devastated over that because of human life. It was awful. So they said, we have your bird. And they showed me a little birdie because he's okay. So that made me feel really terrific. But Jesus told me that he was very serious, by the way. He came toward me out of the tunnel. He had the holes in his hand. I don't know. I don't know why, but he did. Maybe that I'm not really sure why, but he was coming toward me, and he said, like, he had a fan blowing on his hair. He's like coming toward me. He had the people behind, and he said, you have to go back, but I'll always be with you. And as soon as he said, I am back, but I'm by location. I'm in the car. I'm also outside seeing a scene, and where this happened, this accident was in front of the old Hickory Firehouse. Now, again, it's snowing and we have black ice on the ground, so really we should not be out. No one out. I may see a car here and there, but that's it. So I'm seeing these old-timey uniforms of firemen form. They were spirit people, and I saw about 200 to 300 spirit people gather, and they came peacefully. And they were just concerned for me. There was a lady with a pillbox hat, and there's kind of an illustration of what she looked like. She leaned her head in the driver's side. I'm in the passenger side with my mom, but I'm also not in my body. I'm kind of hovering around the car and looking outside. I'm all over the place. And she goes, "Hi, I'm Judith Hefner. Your grandmother used to shop at my mother's jewelry store." I'm like, okay. There were people in the back seat. A young girl named Catherine kind of found out much later in life that Catherine had TB, and she was my grandmother's sister. I didn't know she had a Catherine as a sister, but I found out through someone in the family. And I also heard them saying, whispers, she's the one who carries our voice. She's the one who carries our voice. And that's the actual firehouse there. So again, there's Uriel. I see a rip in the sky. All this is going on at once on the right side. And there's Uriel, fiery portal, but it's not scary. It's very similar to in David Ditchfield's book, Shine On. That's what it looks like, his painting. Uriel was beside me on the right side, blazing, very powerful. Again, I was in and out of my body and all around. I didn't go right back in. No, I was caught between dimensions of the higher realms of here, and then I would be in different places, and then back on Earth, which I'm kind of still that way. Honestly, I'm still that way. That's why I can remote view and heal and quantum travel and speak to spirits and channel at will, because I've been to these different states. I just kind of think of it and go there. So the car crash, I began to see alternate realities. Even though it was snowy and icy, I saw a Native American family cooking over a fire, and they had a baby, and they had, it was a male and female, Native American. And then, which I'm Cherokee. We have a lot of Cherokee in that area. So it could have been that. Although there was nothing in that park, by the way, there's nothing. So I'm seeing into different realities. I'm also seeing an 1890s styled man and a woman carrying a buggy, like a old-timey buggy cart, and strolling through. And then I'm seeing a hot air balloon below. So I don't know if other timelines are bleeding on that one, or I'm just seeing past impressions that's happened. I can't really respond to that. I don't know. And then in the meantime, these rednecks with the Wagoneer, Jeep Wagoneer, came on the left side. They're pulling where the front driver's side was wrapped around, and the tire. I was wedged into the windshield where it broke, and then they put me back. I had blood all over me. I did not go. That we went back to Channel 1. They decided not to take me to the hospital, hence the broken nose for so long, and all the cartilage, broken cartilage. And I used to live with my grandparents in a very large home, a 10,000 square foot home, and get meals and all that. But I was abducted, kind of from my grandparents to this crappy trailer because she wanted to move in with him. My grandparents had no idea where I was. Later on, I kept doing this spiritual work, trying to get location. I ended up calling my grandmother. I think this is pretty significant. I never used a telephone. I'm not even 3.5. I don't know the phone number. I was given the phone number, my higher self, my guides, whatever, told to use it, told 25 minutes away, street by street, how to get there. You got to think, I don't know where I am, but yet I remote viewed it. I was doing all sorts of extraordinary work. And then at that point, then I had an ET experience in that room. It was really powerful. And I'll talk about that later. All right. So then at age 4, this is NDE 4. I was 5 years old, about a little over 5. I'm getting ready to start first grade. That's me in first grade. So this is right before. These are the apartments we lived at. We moved to Raleigh. There was a better job opportunity. Now I'm really away from my grandparents. During this time, I was being sexually abused, as well as there was a lot of gaslighting in the family with my stepdad. So I had this conversation with God and said, I don't want to be here. This is just sucks. And so that's what was going on. I wasn't. I had a strep throat. It led to pneumonia. A couple days of this, I have a fever of 103.9. It kept climbing. That was the fever it stayed at for 2 days, but then it got higher than that. I was put in a tub of ice per the direction of Mom called the closest hospital, which was Rex Hospital. It didn't stop that. My lungs started collapsing. So my mom put me to bed. I couldn't eat. She washed me. I had a fever. I was drenched. So they took me at 10:30 at night to Rex Hospital, which took a while to get there, maybe 20, 30 minutes. I died 15 minutes on the way because the doctors clocked me in as code blue. And I remember a staff of 8 came out and got me. I actually died on the way. I could see above the car and I could see in all directions. So when I got to the hospital, I could see them. They rushed me to an emergency room. I see them pumping goo out of my lungs. That kind of grossed me out. I'm a kid. I'm like, ooh. So I got bored. I started roaming the hallways and I would look into the rooms. And I got very curious about the people in the rooms. I wanted to help them. And I thought, this is great. Like, I'm an undercover angel. This is fantastic. And so there was a brownie girl that was by a Lance machine. It's funny, later, Lance used to be my account when I was in my advertising agency. It's funny, I did their annual report for years. She was by the machine and she saw me. And I thought that was interesting. Then I go back to the room and then there were spirit people, but it was a nun and a priest. Now, I wasn't Catholic. I know my family was Presbyterian. But I knew by the rosary what they were, and I think the flying nun or whatever had been on. So they said, "Blessed are the innocent," and I didn't know why they were so sad, but they were actually talking about me. So again, my lungs were filling up with fluid. The doctors kept trying to get the vital for 2 hours, but I kept flatlining. So eventually, I was covered up with a sheet. So overall, I was dead for 2 hours. But the medical tech on the way to the morgue saw life. And so they told the doctors, and the doctors rushed me into a intensive care room, and they put me in the sheet, and I was in a coma 3 days. Now, by the way, my mom never told me any of this. I confronted her about 5 years ago, and she was shocked that I knew all this. But the soul remembers. And near-death experience memories are different than regular memories. So they're very alive still. They're very much so a soul memory. So I immediately show up in this beautiful place. It's a field. I see kids to the left, and they're playing on a roundabout. And this place just looks perfect. The colors are amazing. It looks like paradise. The spectrum of colors are more than here. And then Jesus showed up, and he took my hand, and he's smiling really big. He's very handsome, by the way. And and to me, when I saw him, he looked, kind of exotic, Mediterranean, whatever you want to call it. But I knew who he was. I said, "You're that guy my grandmother told me to talk to." He goes, "I am." He thought that was funny. And he was very glowy. He had glowing in his core. He was just glowing everywhere. And then he began to tell me things. He's, let's see if I can let me skip ahead. Okay. So he began to tell me things, and he gave me a little bracelet that he wrapped around I think it's over here. Yeah. Let me go here. He said, let me back up. All right, I'll jump to it. So he gave me a bracelet a rope bracelet around my wrist. And he said, I wrap you in my love, protection, and wisdom. He said, through the little things, the big things will know, and through the big things, the small things will be acknowledged. And then he said, I said, I want to stay. He said, I had to go back. He said, well, walk with me for a while. And I noticed everything followed him, which I thought was kind of unusual, like the flowers, the grass, everything. So he sat under this thing. I think it was like the tree of life, because he said, we don't eat from this. And it looked like cherry blossoms, but it had red grapes on it. So we sat there, and, he said, you can ask me whatever. I mean, I'm a kid. I don't know. Ask him about electricity, dinosaurs, yeah, they're real. Okay. So then he begins telling me about how we manifest through our thoughts, how we create things through our thoughts. He didn't use the word manifest, but that's what it was. He told me my mission on earth is to let others know they're loved, and that's their purpose here, to be loved. And then he told me that I had to go back because my mother really needed me. He also told me a few, there's a lot, but these are just a couple of things. He said that through suffering, he said, understanding comes from suffering. It purifies the soul to grow and to be able to serve God and others more compassionately. He also said that's where he said, I wrap you in my protection, wisdom, and love. And he has. I've been talking to him ever since. He tells me everything. He is like so much fun. I have been talking to him. I literally have 40-something years of journals, but back then I didn't call it channeling, but it wasn't me. Anyway, he told me about, the small things and all that, and how people need to create heaven on earth, but they've forgotten who they are. And he then explained more about that. And I kind of argued. I said, it sure seems like a lot of work. I really don't think I can do that. My husband's like, of course you would argue with Jesus, but I did. And he said, there's others helping you, and that you're not alone. And I was like, I don't know. And so finally he convinced me, again, free will. And he said that people have forgotten to laugh, and I can help with that. And I thought, is that like a disease? And he said they let their guard down when they laugh, and then they're able to get more of a healing and joy that can occur with that. And so I'm going to jump onto that. There's a whole bunch of all of this, but I'm just going to, crack on here. Age 10, we went to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. That's my mom in a bikini. Growing up, the whole family walked around in bathing suits. We just love to. And that's my sister. That's the same day that I had the drowning. I don't have a picture of me drowning, but they were in the baby pool. I was in the big pool. I got hung up under some guys playing volleyball. They didn't know I was underneath. I couldn't get up. I saw the water start parting, and then I heard a multiple layered on top of one another chorus of angels and light. And next thing you know, I was waking up by a lifeguard choking up water. All right. Age 38, reaction to a pill. This was in Charlotte, North Carolina, where I reside still. All right, this was by a doctor, like a medical doctor, old-timey medical doctor, for menstrual migraines. But this didn't work well with me. So I'm not one to take stuff. I really don't like taking things. If I have to, I will. I just kind of resist that. So when I took this, I woke up in the middle of the night, and I didn't know, I don't know why, but I couldn't talk and wake up my husband. So I went into the living room to turn on the TV, the hope that if I could follow a stream of consciousness, I would be okay. I only had one of these things. I should be fine. And I'm very sensitive to medication anyway. And so I sat there and I started hearing the white noise. I'm like, oh boy. And then I thought, when I go to, I don't care, it's going to go, I'm really afraid, and then I don't care. That's kind of what happened. But first I realized I didn't know if I was male or female. I didn't know my name. I didn't know what I was. I was like, okay, this probably can't be good. I knew that my body wasn't damaged. I just got to ride this out. So I began to see my living room turn into white lines. Everything was white lines. It wasn't solid. And then next thing you know, I'm out in the galaxy, the nebula, which I love the nebula, by the way. It's one of my favorite places to take a trip. I really like that place. But I was by location. I was there, and I was also in my body, and I was tapping my side leg to get myself back in. All right. I could mention about these different states, but I got to keep moving on. So I had a lot of after effects from this, not only like stopping batteries. I have like 100-something watches I kept them. I don't know why, that I've stopped all the batteries. I've turned on, I've blown out a light post. I've turned on an entire office building complex. I've turned on my car without a key. I've turned on my 75-inch TV. These are side effects, okay? Because energetically I'm different. And I can be with a total stranger in an elevator or anywhere, and I can tell if they've had an ND or not. And there's some people out there that said they have that haven't, because I've been around them. The energy is different. And the ones that have had it, they know. I've even gone to people that didn't know they had one. I said, you had one? They go, well, I always thought I did. I can tell. I can feel energetically they're different. So I was born seeing immediately into the world of unknown things. But as a child, I could see quick images of the future or the past. As a teen, I could see full film strips of moving images of, say, future events. As an adult, I could see past events myself, but I could also see it with other people. Now I can, in full, I can hear, feel, smell, taste what I'm feeling, what everyone else is feeling if I wanted to. You know, there's ethics there. I can also have spirit, like, taste something through me. Like, I had one lady taste ice cream through me and told her granddaughter that pistachio is her favorite. And she goes, yes, it was. I can hug on stage. I do that like a vessel, and you can begin to see them morph their face on top of mine. I think that's really cool. So, again, my slides are not screwed up in real life. So I'm a trained evidential medium, and I'll explain what that is, but I've been speaking to spirit since 3. And then it just heightened every single time I had these near-death experience. And then Jesus came later in life and he said, I want you to use these gifts. I was like, I don't want to be seen as a charlatan. He said, so you won't. And honestly, I have not. I met great people, great clients, terrific. And so I thought, well, if I'm going to do this thing, I need to do it right. So I went and trained. I went to the Omega Institute in New York, and I had so many signs from spirit along the way. An owl, big ass owl in the middle of the street. And that's my grandmother, was a spirit animal. She loved owls. And I was like, should I go? And the owl just sat there and looked at me like, and he just stayed in the street. And then it went away. I was like, okay. Then I saw my number 22. I'm 322. The plane was 22. I just kept seeing it. Then a guy wrote in the back, a seance all week long. And I was like, what? I said, I like your shirt. I saw him later on a connecting flight to Rhinebeck, New York. And he said, what shirt? He didn't realize that he had like a Vincent Price shirt on that said, talked about seances. Anyway, when I was there, about 65 mediums with John Holland, Janet Overhack, for a week, I was like, either I can do this or not. But I think I'm probably better than everyone here. And so, sure enough, turned out to be true. People said, oh my God, I did the stage. They were like, oh my God. And I actually moved like the person and all that. And how long have you been doing it? I'm like, tonight. So I knew this was for me. I continued to study 8 years with UK mediums such as Tony Stockwell extensively, as well as doing trance and conscious channeling. And also Lisa Williams has certified me as advanced psychic medium. And then I spent 5 years touring with the Southern Women's Show. And I would read, I'd be on stage twice, and then I would give evidence of the afterlife and talk about my NDEs, heaven real, and just really, it was a really positive kind of situation. I love the people. Then COVID hit. So I want to talk about the mastering the advanced mediumship. The evidential mediumship is basically giving undeniable proof of the afterlife communication. That's where, like, for example, I'm trying to think, there's so many, but like with Debbie, it said violin. Your mother talks about the violin and you stop. She goes, I don't know about violin. I didn't play violin. So, or it could be something else. You've got the wedding ring. Your mother, gave it to you and you're wearing the wedding ring. Okay, great. That kind of thing. The mental mediumship is telepathy or mind to mind. I've always been talking mind to mind, to Christ, to spirit people. And then when my grandparents passed, that really amped up because I was very close to them. So I talked to them a lot. They helped me with my shows. Anyway, healing mediumship. And I do a lot of this. Even my husband said, oh my gosh, you're a spirit counselor. And it is true, I am. I'll have the spirit person and the human, the sitter. And then we'll be doing counseling. And they'll, whatever upset that's there, whether someone, had a falling out for whatever reason, now they've crossed over, they want to apologize. Sometimes the human beings, like the sitter, is like, no. And I'm like, just try to just listen, hear them out. And I try to be an intermediary to transmute any upset and understanding, bringing it together, and if you can, to a love state. And then xenology that's where I've spoken in shows. First time I did it, my husband left the room. He's like, oh, I can't see this. Where I speak different languages that I don't know. Like I've spoken Egyptian, Vietnamese. That was really cool. You should have seen their faces. Let's see. What are the different ones? Cuban, Dominican Republic, Spanish, French, from Normandy. And of course, you can tell I've got a slight accent. Don't have it when I speak these. Then there's physical mediumship. Apparently there's more ectoplasm in some mediums than other. Apparently I got a lot because I have faces form on top of mine. And you can see this is an old timey picture of ectoplasm. It looks a little creepy, but that's what happens. Also, I'm a physical medium. So in the room, not just me, but everyone in the room could smell the cigar. If I'm talking about the uncle that had owned a bar that smoked cigars, that like little whiskey highballs, then the whole room smells the cigars. I also have chandeliers move. They'll hear music in the room. There's no music. So that's coming through me. That's something I didn't try. I just have. It's just an innate thing. Although I've worked on it, but it was kind of there already. And so I do the huggy whoopee thing on stage, and it's just amazing because they're like, that's them, but it doesn't last long, but it is them essentially. They're just using me, but I have to like them. All right. Remote viewing, seeing into timeline. So knowing spirit in full, that's telos, is a higher state than psychic. You can see past, present, and future timeline events. I've been used for different things to do this. I used a lady, I used to read her real estate. I can get street addresses, GPSs, last names. I got a club name in a foreign country where I get, if it's important, but I get it in readings like the guitar that's lost is in the closet. I get the history of a building. I used to ghost hunt. I don't tell people that, but I did that initially but then I had this whole big group would follow me, and I would get the history, how the person passed. They would tell me all about it. And then I would get names and dates. And so that's something that's just kind of, intuitively with me. So I've been channeling masters, teachers of love and unity. I've been channeling Christ. You know him as Yeshua. I don't need to pronounce, who he is. You know who he is. Then Mother Mary started showing up. That was very confusing because I'm like, I'm not Catholic, but she's really awesome. I know her. I can feel her. When she comes around, I smell roses. When Jesus comes around, I smell lavender. Then Yogananda, of course, that makes sense. He was a student of Christ, so he's showed up several times. George Harrison has. Lennon. He's come through as well. Sorry, my dog's barking. And then he's come through and talked about his life and what he could have learned and about where he lived and how he couldn't go out into the city because he had, he couldn't eat normal food. He had to grow it. And he explained these things. St. Ignatius has come through. Ramanaju came through a reading I was doing on South Africa. He came through for a Hindu guy who was reading his book, gave a very beautiful, detailed channel message. Sai Baba's come through to someone I read with ashes in the hands, St. Germain. Confucius is a hard ass. He's not real nice. He's like real stern. And then Gandhi's just so sweet and practical. All right. So then there's a difference between trance and conscious channeling. I don't trance out for most people because I'm too open, but I have a client of 8 years now. He's a good friend, Mark Ferrantino. You can see him in that image there beside Einstein. And Einstein, I read him years ago, and I think his wife was a skeptic. She was off to the side. Sometimes people are off camera, but then their people still come through, even though because they're in the room, and did the reading. And then at the end, everything was really spot on, evidential. And then at the end, Einstein shows up, and I was like, oh my gosh, Einstein, he gets to totally understand. Well, Mark had been working on his theory of relativity for years to finish Einstein's work. So he gave him the acceleration formula through me. And then as we continued, he came to Florida when I was doing a show on stage for the Southern Women's Show there in Jacksonville. And he had 3 or 4 typed scientific pages. It's like, oh, I don't know about that. And so my cousin was working the booth. I was like, I'm just going to sit here and zone out. I remember he asked me how stars are formed. And again, I'm not a science person. I didn't do well in science or math. I did great in history and art. But in drama. But I gave him all this stuff, told him how to create a Stargate portal, which he put in the last chapter of his book. He scientifically found that out. So those can take me to deeper levels, and also what's in the inner core of the earth and how we're not careful, it'll blow up and what's in it and all this. I don't honestly remember. And that's part of the trance state. You don't remember. Now, I consciously channel. That's where I go up. I have a whole thing on altered states where I go up a little, not so deep. And I can at will channel Christ. And then he started bringing me people. I've channeled Metatron, Cryon, Michael, Ultra Dimensionals, Astro, the Galactic Federation, which I have been on. Now, the past life recall. Now it's coming at will because I've had over 400 hours of past life recall on Earth and other planets. I've seen inventions I've made, different planets, who I was. I've been male and female pretty equally. And one time in Egypt, I was both. What, hermaphrodite? Seriously. Yeah. They didn't know they had these jars. They didn't know what to do with like my penis in the end. So they stuck it behind the lungs. Another story. Anyway, so my past life, I did some of these on Portal to Ascension. God bless Neil for giving me the opportunity to totally put myself out there. I guess that's thank you. And so I have spoken about my Atlantean as a high priestess. I was shapeshifter from Sirius B. And I would go back below and the top, and I had mastery. And part of the mastery as a high priestess is going through these near-death experiences and coming back from it and being over that, senior to that. And that was one of the things to graduate. And so then I talked about Lemurian. And during that time, I was a Lemurian. During Lemuria, I was a creator of Lemurian. I was a seraphim. I was a guy, blonde. I looked perfect. I was like a giant. And I was teaching how, beautiful concepts of community. But it was the elephants, and you'll have to see that. Some of you can buy on Portal to Ascension. The elephants help ground people, elfin angels. But that was one of the ones I did. Now, I don't have a lot of time to go into it, so I'll just, this is the whole thing here. It's very telling. So I did this many different ways this has come up, okay? So I'm just going to mention one of them. So I had an in-between life with Dr. Linda Botman when I used to run IONS, the International Near-Death Studies. I've spoken for them. I helped them help set up ISGO, this facilitators group, and then I had my own group here in Charlotte 5 years for IONS. Anyway, she spoke for that. She had some openings that they were renting an Airbnb here and her husband, and she's very well known. She stood under Dr. Michael Newton. So I had a session with her, and I can go into regression. I don't need a lot to go through it. I just kind of like, where are you? And I'll say it. And I'm just kind of go there. So basically, we went to my soul origin, and we went from where I was a reptilian that I'm trying to save a planet through brotherly love and help a planet that was starving to help them grow food. That concept started a civil war on the planet that I was in Anunnaki, which I can still speak that language. So not all reptiles are bad. And then before that, I have come many lifetimes trying to be of help. And I even slip between that 3-minute thing I've talked about in past talks where I can go between time. I still do that to help people at night. Some people say that they've seen me. I'm helping. I'm also creating the light grids. And so Cryan said, thank you. You're done with your energetic light grids. And I was like, okay, I don't know what that means, but you're welcome. So I realized I was a celestial. It was pretty intense. I have the recording of me, all these coming through these angel names that you would recognize. And they said it was you. You're the one who's eclectic. You're the one who can pull this off. It's always you. You're the one who'd love to dance here. And I do love to dance. And so, I was like, wow, how are you sure about this? Because her thing is either you're angel, alien, or human. Honestly, I don't think any of us are truly human. So, throw that out the door. But she has the right to think the way she wants. And so that made sense. I asked Jesus about it. He said I was seraphim. And I said, well, if I was seraphim, he goes, you're the essence of. I said, well, what do you mean? So if I was full seraphim, I would be so bright I'd blow up. He goes, something like that. I was like, okay. And apparently I'm a key, so I'm activation key. So we'll have to see how that plays out. There's several of us here. All right, so Starseed memory. So the past life regression, other planets, I have done years of that on Arcturus, Sirius A and B, Orion, Lyra, several, okay? In 2021, I did a DNA activation with a Palladian. I didn't know that's what it was. I needed some energy alignment. I really enjoyed it. I said, what is this? This is fantastic. And I remembered being from Sirius A, the last planet I was at. And now I'm going to teach that on the Galactic Origins Cruise, what planet last you're from. Because after these activations, I just know things now. As well as being on the Galactic Federation, that really did it too. So, anyhow, that I had several more afterwards, and they were good. And I started glowing after that. I think I covered that later. But anyway, I've had, now I know instantly past lives that I had, and I now channel the ultra dimensionals. So what happened after these activations is actually starting, because I'm an evidential medium, right? I like evidence. So you can get evidence from channeling because, You know, I got to have proof. How do you know you're just not making this stuff up? So that's why I like to start with things that are proof, and then I go into really obscure when I do live stuff, especially if the audience is open to it, because, you know, I want to let them know it's real. All right, so I started seeing physical UFOs physically, and my husband and I were going to Asheville, and we were going, that was August 15th, 2021, and we're late getting out of town. We got so much crap in our car, 2 dogs. I'm like, 2 Shih Tzus. And so we're 1 Shih Tzu down, God bless him. But we were on the way there, and it was like 7:45 p.m. at night. It was not dark because it was August, so you know, it didn't get dark till like 9. And my husband goes, look, and to his side, there was a fleet of 5 UFOs. There's no question. There's absolutely no question that's what it was at all. Okay. Because they were pretty close. And then he goes, but look at that. And beside me, there was one, it was very big and it was round and it looked like a lava ball like this here. And I talked to Craig Campobasso, who has been on my channel, and I just adore him. He's been on the Seeking Heaven channel, but and then he's now been in Portal to Ascension. He's wonderful, but he has several books out, and I asked him about that. He's been with MUFON. He goes, "Oh yeah, that's common to see that. It's a heat signature." So at that time, I felt intense love. I felt they were the Syrians, and I told him how much I love them. This went on 7 or 8 minutes. It was like a long little incident. I didn't get up my camera. It just felt very intimate. That's all I can say. I didn't expect that, but it was euphoric. And I was in my right mind. I didn't expect that, but yeah, I was just kind of in a love state. And then it was 2 months later, I brought a pizza home and it was getting dark now because it's October. About the same time, about the same date. And I'm driving up and I'm thinking a helicopter's in my backyard, and I'm driving up. I have a kind of a long driveway, and I'm looking, and there's a freaking mothership. I could not process it. It was really long. I drew it. I don't have it here, but I drew it. It had separate little lights at the bottom, like yellow, blue, green. But at the top, it was like a spray of prisms of colors. And obviously, a mothership couldn't fit in my backyard. I mean, I have a pretty big backyard, but not that big. Is that they had the technology, not the hover technology. That was the other one, but the technology where it could resize. And then I called my husband on the car phone and I said, "Get outside. There's a big ass UFO mothership." And so he ran out there, and then it just literally sucked back, just like Bob Lazar taught me years ago when about that technology when I met him years ago at a MUFON cocktail thing. So afterwards, I started doing these light codes. I'm like, I don't know why. I just started drawing them, and I had to look them up. Like, what are these things? And kind of, I found them with Dr. Stephen Greer from Sirius, and I think he's from Sirius too. And so I'm from Sirius, the last planet, yay! Of course, I've been a lot of things, but I'm here as an ambassador from the Syrian nation and the Galactic Federation. That's a difference. So, anyhow, these started happening, and then I'm going to jump right into my Galactic Federation thing. So I had Preston Denton, who's a UFO author of like 28 books. Y'all probably seen him. He's awesome. But anyway, he was on my channel. We're going through interviewing him about UFOs and whatever his experiences. So we took a break, and I was telling him this experience. And I can't go too much into it, but if you look at the Star Beings episode on Portal to Ascension, you'll see it. Basically, I woke up in a dream. You ever do that? Wake up in a dream. And I woke up in a dream. I was like, whoa, I'm awake in this dream. And I said, oh, I'm so high. And I was looking at, if you could see this room where it's like all kind of, the one at the lower bottom where it's oval, like it's a deck, and it was all open windows. And in the middle, there was a light system. And I saw this guy, and I drew him. He had really far away eyes, green. His hair part in the middle, came here at a notch collar. He looked like he should be in a Swedish band. And he said, "I'm Astor." And I said, "You run this place?" And he goes, "Yes." He goes, "You know me?" I said, "I don't know you." He says, "Yes, you've known me for eons. You've helped for eons." And I'm like, "Well, why am I here? I've never been up this high." He goes, "It's time for you to remember who you are and why you're here." And I was like, okay. So he took me on this large tour. Like I was a dignitary. He took me on this tour, and we went through this whole thing. Hey, Deb. And okay, I'm wrapping up a couple more slides since we got started. So, oops, you there? And so now where I am with that, and you can see that on the Star Beings thing, is that now I'm saying, if you look up Tamara Calder, which is my little girl name, right? Richardson's my married name. You'll see a DC comic, Marvel comic. And you'll see that how she was taken as a telepath in a brain lab. This literally, it's a whole nother thing. I can do a topic on another time, but I have been running this incident where in my childhood. At that same time, this came out, which I saw this, but this is two things separate. Now they're coming together. Where
Tara, I'm just going to just a breath. 1 second, please, my love. We have other speakers. We're behind at this point, and they have a hard stop. To do the delivery. So please, I apologize because I've been listening to this whole thing and it's unbelievable. Will you give us just a couple of sentences to wrap this up?
Yes.
And where we can find you.
Thank you, Debbie. Okay, here we go. So let's go here. So let me end off for everybody. My wish for everybody is to be the love in the world of humor and grace, empower others to live fully and expand their superpowers. Dream without limits, be the change in the world you want. Love hard, give kindly to yourself and the world. And the biggest journey you'll ever take is the journey of you.